Hello everyone, welcome to the Cloud Skills Show. This is episode 2. My name is Adam Jackson. I work in the Microsoft Developer Relations team. You're very welcome today. We started this show last week because people like me, we work with technical communities every day. They tell us they want to make their technical life easier. They want help getting a new job, a promotion, making a career change. And fundamentally, they're people that just want to learn new stuff every day. So we're here at this time each week to help you discover some of the resources we have and learn from our tech community. Now, you can see on screen right now some of our guests that are joining us today. You'll meet them all in a little while. But we are going to start off today talking with my colleague, Emily, and we're going to be talking about languages and frameworks. So everything today is about languages and frameworks. And we hope that you will join us throughout the show. On social media, we are broadcasting live on Microsoft Learn TV. We're on the MS Dev UK on Twitter and other places as well. We're on Twitch. We're pretty much everywhere we can be. So if you're on one of those platforms, please do send us a message via the live chat, send us a question. So first of all, I would like to welcome my first guest today, the wonderful Emily Clarke. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Hello. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Emily, it'd be, we've worked together for a long time, but I think a lot of the viewers on screen might be the first time meeting you. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Emily Clarke and I'm a developer product marketing manager here in the UK. Actually, last week's episode was super interesting for me. I used to manage the student ambassador program many years ago, and I've sort of always worked in developer focused roles whilst here at Microsoft. But it's really great to hear from Salman and to hear how the student ambassador program is now focused around Learn and all the amazing resources that we have here at Microsoft. So yeah, hello and welcome to the Cloud Skills Show, everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for joining us. So I think, Emily, we actually interesting. I saw on Twitter this week that you're actually doing some of the Microsoft Learn modules at the moment. I think it's the AI fundamentals that you've just started off, right?
Yes. So Amy Boyd is kindly sort of encouraged me to take it. I have done the Azure fundamentals already and thought, AI is one of the sort of hot topics at the moment. How can I upskill and learn a lot more about it? And I'll caveat now that I'm not super technical. This is very, very new to me. And I've been able to do some really cool machine learning experiments. So I definitely recommend going and checking that out if you've got time.
Brilliant. Well, today we're going to talk a bit about programming languages, as I mentioned at the start. And so I think you and I were going to have a quick chat about Python, aren't we?
Yes, we are. So maybe if we take a quick look at the Azure documentation, we'll be able to scroll down to the languages and tools section, and you'll basically be able to see a ton of different languages and tools that we offer, resources, there we go, for Microsoft. And quite interestingly, it's not just .NET and C#. We cover a range of different other non-first party languages and tools, which is really cool. So if we click on Python, we'll be able to see this section in a little bit more detail. And actually, this is a really great place to start if you want to do something a bit more specific with Python in Azure. So definitely go and have a look at this if maybe you're a bit more familiar with Python. And we've also got a range of quick start guides here too. So this guide really shows us how to use command line tools to create a Python function in Azure. So you can see at the top of the screen, there's actually a selector where you can see all the different programming languages. And actually later on today, we'll meet Rory, who's an advocate for Java. So he can tell us a little bit more about that. But one of the things we're really proud of, hi Rory, one of the things we're really proud of at Microsoft is the quality of our documentation. And as Anna mentioned last week, it's all sort of back-ended on GitHub, but we've made sure that everything across all the languages is sort of standardized and is a really great quality. So you've got everything you need is basically right there.
That's really cool, and I do like the fact that a lot of the guides now actually you can switch between the programming languages. We know a lot of people don't just stick to one language all the time, so really great to see that that those things are there as well. So I think I was wondering about folks that might be new to a programming language or new to Python, and I certainly I know that. Myself, I'm more over the sort of IT professional side. I'm not massively familiar with a lot of programming languages. What sort of resources do we have for people like that?
So we've got a ton of different sort of resources on Microsoft Learn, and actually Python is one of the languages that has a number of introductory modules on Microsoft Learn. And we chose Python for these as it's a great programming language for developers just starting out. And we have a really comprehensive learning path for folks who've never actually coded before, which you're showing right now. And this first module in the path is very much an introduction. So it explains a lot about the process of programming. But if you're maybe more familiar with this, you can sort of skip straight ahead to the hands-on module where you can get to grips with Python in Visual Studio Code.
That is amazing, and we've got the link up on the screen for folks that are new to that as well. So, what about folks that are actually familiar with Python already? What sort of resources do we have for them?
So if you're a bit more familiar with Python, we've got one on Azure Machine Learning. So if you can use the browse function basically and learn and search for Python. You can search for a ton of different languages there too. But essentially this is one of the learning paths that we've got a bit more sort of intermediate basically if you're more familiar with Python.
That's wonderful, and yeah, again, we've got another link for that. So if you missed any of these, by the way, you can always have a look on YouTube later on, or on Twitter, and you can run it back. Or if you're watching on Learn TV, there's even a rewind on there. You can go back about 8 hours. I think it's pretty good. So, if you missed any of those, so we will actually put them online later on as well. In last week's show, one of the things that I actually enjoyed most was was actually meeting Salman, who's from our Microsoft Learn student ambassador community, and he talked about it is, isn't it? Yeah, we're just calling them ambassadors. So he talked quite a bit about some of those resources, and I understand that we have some new stuff on Microsoft Learn as well for them. Some new courses that have been put together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff on Learn, there's a ton of different bits of content there, so definitely go and check that out if you're a student or even not. But we have actually partnered with some of amazing universities around the world to create some of the content, and UC Berkeley actually helped us build the foundation of data science learning path. So this one here, and this uses Python too. So if you're a student, this is a really, really great one to take a look at, and from one of the leading universities in this area.
That is absolutely fantastic, and actually, Emily, you worked with the student community quite a bit in the past, didn't you, at Microsoft? Yeah. That
was one of my favourite jobs that I've had at Microsoft. I joined the grad scheme, and I basically helped look after the Imagine Cup, which is our student developer competition, and also the brand ambassador program too. So I always got so much energy from the students doing things like hackathons and being on campus and really sort of supporting them and helping them learn. For me, I think that's one of the most exciting audiences in the technical space. They've got so many ideas. So yeah.
Oh, that is absolutely awesome. So yeah, I mean, definitely take a look at some of those new resources. I know that we mentioned this one today because there is Python in there, and we think it's quite a good one to highlight. I should mention that there are lots of other learning paths as well that have been put together by universities. So next week's show is actually about AI, and an Oxford University, someone quite close to us, physically close to us. Here in the UK, they put together an AI learning path just recently as well. So we might highlight that on next week's show as well. But one to look forward to. There was one I quite like the look of actually. Just a sort of bonus one. You can use the search box here just to search for different content. Now I was looking to see, what do we have on Python, because that's what we were talking about today. I really like this one about classifying space rocks as well.
Amazing.
I mean, this is also quite a good one for data science or Python, or for students as well. But I think but this was something that I know that there's been a partnership with NASA. And certainly, you can actually do some hands-on stuff there. And if you find normal learning sometimes a bit dry, then things like this can certainly be quite fun to get involved with. So definitely have a browse around on there as well.
I might have to give that a go after my AI fundamentals. I think I love that you can do everything in a sandbox environment, and they've got those sort of real-world data sets and examples that you can use. So yeah, that looks like a really, really cool one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, hopefully you got all of the links. I mean, don't forget if you aren't familiar with Microsoft Learn, just pop to this link to aka.ms/cs-learn. You can just use the browse or search function on there. We've got all sorts of different resources. I think, Emily, you're going to introduce some folks that are going to talk about .NET and C# resources now, aren't you?
Yes, I've got the pleasure of introducing Jess and Pete, who are going to join us to talk a little bit about what we've got on offer for our .NET developers. They're both Microsoft Most Valued Professionals, which is harder to say than it should be. Jess is an organiser of DDD East Midlands, and Pete is an organiser of .NET Knots and also a Pluralsight author. So welcome to you both, and they're going to talk a little bit more about what we have on Docs and Learn for devs coding in C#.
Hiya, thank you for the brilliant introduction. So I'm Jess. Pete and I both run .NET Knots together, so we live in the same town and know each other quite well. But I work for Experian. I'm a .NET developer and have been for a good 5 years now. Pete, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a freelance software developer, and I tend to concentrate in the IoT space. As Jess says, we run .NET Knots, which is a .NET focused, but not primarily .NET, meetup in Nottingham. Nottingham's got a fantastic tech community. I think there's 30 odd meetups there, so that's great. I also run Knots IoT and a workshop-based Knots Dev workshop in Nottingham as well, so it's like a mini monopoly.
Yeah, you can pretty much live off beer and pizza in Nottingham just through meetups alone.
Yeah, you don't need to pay for food.
So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the .NET C# kind of ecosystem, because that's what I'm very familiar with. Pete's going to go on to his world of IoT, which he's kind of known for, does lots of talks in. And with the learning docs that are available at the moment, it's kind of amazing, because even 5 years ago when I first got into .NET C#, I had to teach myself C# and I relied on Pluralsight. So again, thanks Pete for Pluralsight courses, which is a really useful tool in itself. But now there's loads, and it's a great time to get into .NET, C#, F#, otherwise. We have the .NET Core 3.1 migrations happening at the moment. .NET Core 5's coming out, .NET 5 is coming out in November. C# 9's been announced with all its goodness. So it's a really great time to start learning in C#. I'm currently sharing a blog by Mag Solson, which talks about Welcome to C# 9 and how much is changing at the minute. But it's all changing for the better, in my point of view. Ah, look at it. It's lovely code. And as well as that, I'm primarily a back-end dev. So sorry, but I don't know much about front-end. But there is a lot coming in terms of Blazor as well. So there's Blazor Train, which is by Carl Franklin, which has lots of videos around this, introducing that kind of thing. And again, there's a lot available on the Microsoft Docs site as well. So whether you want to be a back-end dev, front-end dev, or otherwise, there's plenty of opportunity, wouldn't you say, Pete? Absolutely. No, it's really good. One of the other resources that I do like is the .NET Microsoft resources. They've got a variety of different learning techniques and tools, whether you like videos or whether you like in-browser kind of environments to type away in without having to install anything on your machine. No matter what
we were laughing about this yesterday because the original URL for this was www.net. I think they did well to change that.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing. We were stumbling over ourselves trying to say it yesterday.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's really useful because there is so many different ways in which people learn, whether visual learners, textual learners, or otherwise, or whether they want to get hands-on. And I like this particular site because it does have a lot available. And as I say, I've watched plenty of the videos myself. Even in my short 5 years, the .NET ecosystem has changed dramatically. So it's constantly learning on the job as well.
One of the cool things about that site as well, you can code online. So if you can't install all the nice new .NET Core stuff, then you can try that online directly in your browser, which takes away some of that pain of getting an environment set up. You can just do it straight there. It
certainly takes away some of your pain at the moment, Pete, because I know that your laptop's slowly dying.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
So yeah, it takes away some of the need to have a really powerful laptop to learn these things. You don't need anything big. You just need to be able to run your choice of browser, whatever that may be, in order to practice and learn these things. Which
you can even do it on a Raspberry Pi, eh?
Apparently so. It really helps with kind of lowering that boundary for learning these things, which is great. And of course, what we're all talking about is there is plenty to learn in the docs.microsoft.com. Again, plenty of documentation, but so many different learning paths, which is great. As I mentioned, even working in this kind of industry for a while, I've still got plenty to learn. So I'll be doing a few of these myself. Not sure about you, Pete. Probably the same.
I'm constantly doing it. I mean, I know, Jess, you didn't originally start in tech, though, did you? You've branched into it. So you must have had a different learning experience for this. Yeah,
and I think that's why I'm quite excited about these resources. So for those who don't know, I started off in neuroscience doing a PhD, which I left. And I did a conversion course for computer science after a year of working and saving up. And this conversion course used like 3 months of training, and then you had to write a dissertation. Most of it was Java. And Pete and I live around Nottingham, and there's a lot of .NET around Nottingham. So all of the .NET that I've learned is pretty much self-taught. In fact, it's pretty much all self-taught. So even 5 years ago, these kind of resources just weren't available. And I would have had to get a nice machine in order to try and run something like this. So it's really quite astounding how far it's come. And yeah, I wish this was around when I first started.
They don't know how lucky they are.
Oh, I'm making us sound old now.
I think this is just making me sound old.
I mean, saying that, Pete, you didn't like do a course on IoT or do your degree in that, did you? You came around a bit later.
No, there wasn't an IoT when I started. I mean, I did my degree in electronics and electrical engineering, so I've always been in and around that space. But that was sort of the back end of the 90s. But I was doing IoT in my first job. I helped make an internet connected, a modem connected Royal Mail stamp vending machine that you could dial into and get all of the stock levels and readings and error codes and that sort of stuff. So, that was IoT before there was a real IoT for that to go on. But you're right, there was next to no decent learning material out there at all. And thank goodness for the internet, really, because just reading this from books that are immediately out of date is difficult. And then you don't know sort of how well written the books are, whereas the resources that we've got here are curated by Microsoft, so you know that they're going to be well researched and designed. So it's fantastic.
It's a fantastic resource for boot camps as well. There's quite a few boot camps around that area because having a degree isn't the only way to get into tech anymore, thank goodness.
Absolutely. Definitely not a requirement.
So yeah, these resources can be used anywhere by anyone, whether you're in the industry, whether you're looking to get into it, whether you're a brand new person or you've been around for a few years but want to learn something a bit more in depth or a different angle. There's so much available. And I think you're going to take us through some of the IoT stuff, aren't you, Pete?
Yeah, and Emily mentioned Salman from last week's episode, and Salman's fantastic. I've met Salman quite a few times, but listening to the fact that I think he's done over 30 certifications is incredible, and it really goes to show sort of how well laid out these things are, but also how accessible they are, and also Salman's just awesome all on his own. But I mean, looking at certification is a really good place to start because it gives you a target. If you've not sort of got a job specifically that you're doing this for, and maybe you've got career aspirations or you want to change role, then looking at what certifications are available are really good. And on my screen here, I've got the AZ220, which I have to stop myself from saying AZ220, which I was involved in creating this exam, so I'm quite proud of that fact. But you come to these certification pages, and of course it gives you a bit of an idea about who the exam's targeted at and how to schedule it. And then it talks about which skills are measured, but beneath these exams are the learning paths, so direct links to the docs and the learn that you can go through. And there's a heap of modules contained in these. Of course, you can go straight to the docs.microsoft.com website, and you can do the filtering there. And I've filtered here on IoT related matters, and you can see that there are a lot. And I'm not going to call each and every one of these out, but there are several pages. And in fact, just limiting that by the learning path, you can see the 6 fantastic learning paths to choose from here, depending on what you want to look at. Everything from beginner through intermediate. And one of the other great things about these is if you want to learn anything that's going to touch Azure, you're going to need an Azure account. And some of these services cost money. But what they've done is they've given you a sandbox account. So you just need an Azure account, and then you can spin up a sandbox, and that will create you the environment, and it won't cost you a penny. So you can create resources that would normally be chargeable in there, and just use it for the length of time it's going to take you to go through that learning resource, and then it'll just automatically kill itself off at the end of that, and you won't be charged. And
so you're telling me it's cheaper than Animal Crossing, and I should be probably spending my time better over COVID by learning some IoT.
Yeah. Yes, I'm telling you that. Although I think half of the Nottingham Tech community will ostracise me for even mentioning not to be doing Animal Crossing. We've got a Slack channel, the Tech Nottingham Slack community there, and there's a channel specifically just for that is pretty busy. Animal Crossing. I've not even got it. I've not even got a Switch. Who can buy Switches? No one can buy those. Other consoles are available. So yeah, that's fantastic. One of the other things that they've done though is if you want to do anything with IoT, one of the biggest barriers for people is the fact that there's so much kit out there, and that kit costs money. But to be able to go through some of these, Microsoft have created some simulators, and a Raspberry Pi simulator here that I'm showing on the screen is a great one, because normally you'd have to go and buy a Raspberry Pi and an SD card and a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor, and then a power supply and possibly a case, and then plug all that together and then install Raspbian on it, and then whatever prereqs are required to be able to start, install Node, and you're there forever, and it's just going to put people off. But this lets you get straight down to just trying the code. So there's some Node code here on the top right-hand corner, and you can literally just run that. And that'll start sending messages so long as you've ran through the help and created an IoT hub, which you will be able to do in a sandbox for free as part of the learning path. And this just cuts that whole hardware barrier out of that. And then there's a piece of software, an IoT Explorer that you can run, and that can show you those messages. But you can actually see them being ingressed here just as metrics in the dashboard, and I've just created a little Cloud Skills dashboard here. It won't show you anything live for the next 5 minutes, and I'm not going to sit around and make you do that. That's not the only one, actually. Obviously, Raspberry Pi is great. I'm a massive advocate of Raspberry Pi, but Microsoft have co-created this MX chip device, and there's a simulator for that as well. So this is an Arduino based device rather than a full Linux distro-based computer like the Raspberry Pi. But this is all written in C. But the good thing with all of this is you've not had to write the code either. You can look at the code, see how it's working, download it, run it on a real device. But you don't need to actually bother yourself about writing any of this or even understanding it. If all you're interested in is the IoT hub side or the IoT side of Azure, then you can just come in and paste in the same connection string and it'll start running. And what's good about this is it's kind of interactive. So it's got buttons on it and you can press it and then you have to shake the device. And this would work the same on the real device. And then that is going to send messages up to Azure as well. So that's fantastic. The other good thing is if you go back to the Raspberry Pi, .NET Core is now cross-platform. And so you can run .NET Core on a Raspberry Pi. And then that means you can transfer all of your C# skills onto an embedded IoT system and just run, rather than perhaps having to learn C, which is difficult. Trust me, I've tried, or JavaScript, which not everybody knows. As Jess said, there's a prevalence of .NET devs in Nottingham, so that's what's good about that. The other good thing is that there's a gallery of device bindings, as they call them. So what they've done is create a GitHub repository specifically for controlling devices. So there's things like BME 280s, which are temperature and pressure sensors, and Explorer Hat, which is hardware attached on top of a Pi. And so you can just install that NuGet library, and then you've got access to control all these devices. So again, you don't have to go studying sheets. Somebody's written that code for you, and there's samples included with that and everything. So it's fantastic.
I think what's really nice for the learning paths as well is, I don't know about you, but with Raspberry Pis and various other things, I get carried away with what to make, having an idea of where to start and what you want to build, and suddenly you've created a monster.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've got plenty of experience of doing things like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got a talk coming up, and it leads me to make things like this, that's Alexander Graham Bell's first telephone. But that's just one little bit. What you can't see on the left-hand side of my office over there is all of the other cruft that I've accumulated. I seem to have one of every sort of device. But it is hard. It makes it difficult for people if there's too much information. It's like going to a restaurant and the menu's just cluttered and you can't decide what you're going to have. I'd rather just have 5 items on there and I'll just have the fish and chips.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I now need to play a bit more with Arduino and Raspberry Pi, that's for sure.
I do. Also, go and check Channel 9 have got a show, the IoT show, and that's fantastic. So do go and check that out as well if you are interested in IoT.
And of course, you've got your meetup as well, which is happening again in a few weeks.
Yes, in fact, we've got the senior PM and PM, Ben Carbe, if I pronounce his name correctly, coming along next month to Not So 18. It'll be virtual, so streamed on YouTube and on Zoom. So other streaming platforms exist.
It's great to be able to chat to people who are also learning, though. Things like Slack and otherwise, having a community around you while you're learning and talking about these things helps you, A, get excited, but B, get those extra resources that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yes.
So,
yep.
Yeah, all about the community.
Have we had any questions coming in, Adam?
No, not yet. I think that you've just done such an amazing job of talking through the brilliant resources that we have. I have to say I'm still trying to catch up with grabbing all the links. So what we might do is after the show actually put a lot of them on on a document just so that people can look them up at a later date. And we'll put that on Dev too, and I'll try and bring up the address at the end of the show just so we can get all of those links again. But I think that for me, I didn't know about any of these these simulators, to be honest with you. So this is a first time for me. I'm looking through the GitHub right now. I did take a note of the link, and I've lost my little graphic now. Oh, there it is. Yes. So I know if you go to that short link, which I created while you were talking, you can find the Raspberry Pi simulator, and again, we'll put all of those links on at the end. But
it can definitely be a relationship saver as well, because if you're spending all your money on Raspberry Pis, etc., I can guarantee your other half is going to get annoyed.
No, I think it's the exact opposite. People see all of this and then they want to go and buy all the Raspberry Pis. So, we've got a reason to do it then. I've had so many people after I've given them a talk send me a tweet, go, "Oh, I've been to your talk and now I've bought all of this stuff." And one of the great things about this is it's so accessible that young children can do it. I'm a STEM ambassador, so it's fantastic to see the number of people that take this home and get involved with their children to do that, which is, the reason why Eben Upton created the Raspberry Pi was to do that sort of stuff. And I think it's really important to call out that these learning resources aren't just aimed at sort of people my age. Everybody can get involved with these resources.
Amazing. Emily, what did you think? What was your favourite thing today?
I think the simulator has won me over. I need to have a go with that too now.
Yeah, I have to say. Oh yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was going to ask, sort of in the past couple of months, obviously we've had to switch to being doing community sort of activity online. What's maybe been some of the nicer outcomes in terms of being able to deliver community events virtually?
I mean, it's been funny actually, because people have asked specifically about numbers. That seems to be people's fascination about, is it if you had more or less people? And it's been the same as before, but we've had different people. And what's really good about this is it's way more inclusive now for speakers. Us organisers, it's easier. But there's so many people out there that perhaps have childcare commitments, or, it's expensive if you're going to travel around the country speaking. But to be able to just sit down at home in front of your computer and give a talk is fantastic. And also, there are a lot of people, not only developers out there, that perhaps suffer with low confidence and the ability to be able to mix in big crowds, and it's taken that away as well. So accessibility has been one of the great things. And I know Jess is going to have something to say about this as well.
Yeah, accessibility is definitely an aspect. It's also that we've got people coming from all over the world to part of our community as well. So just before COVID hit, one of my old work colleagues actually moved to Hungary, and I thought I wasn't going to hear from him again. And I now see him on a monthly basis online having a chat at one of the meetups, which is really, really nice. So it's been a way of kind of not just having a community to Nottingham, but showing what our community is to the rest of the world and meeting more people, which is really fantastic.
It's saving recruitment agencies a fortune in sponsorship as well.
Love it.
I don't know about all of you, but I'm really hoping that when we go back to we say go back to normal, or whatever I don't like the phrase the new normal. I don't like it, but it's a temporary normal. We don't know what new is yet, and we're still finding our way. But one of the things I definitely hope is that I believe that people will want to go back to in-person meetups, but I think that a lot of people will realise that they can maybe take a hybrid approach in the future and have in person, but also make sure that the people joining online have a really great experience too, and they're not just the afterthought. Because I've been in meetings, even internal meetings at work where I've joined a meeting and everyone's been sitting in Redmond and they're all having a good chat, and I'm sort of on the end, and they almost forget that you're there. Yeah. So I hope that when we go back to having in-person things, we don't forget the people that that are joining us online, and that can actually learn a lot from what we bring as well from a distance.
I think we're incredibly lucky as well, because we have things like these resources, and otherwise it's easier to run workshops online. It's easier to get more people to collaborate together by using online resources. Whereas even with in-person meetups, getting people to pull their laptops or otherwise to a venue and then work together on some code, it could be quite difficult. Even from an organising perspective, making sure there's enough plugs was always an interesting one.
And the internet
never enough plugs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'd have trailing cables all over the floor, and tape to hold it down so that you didn't have a health and safety. Yeah, I was really glad. I remember when we opened the Microsoft reactor in London, I think the first thing people asked was, "Will there be enough sockets in the floor?" And there were. Although someone put
the floor was just made of sockets. The person that runs the reactor is going to hate me for saying this, but they bought these cables that had plugs built into them, but they used the wrong sort of fuse. So as soon as people plugged more than 2 laptops in, it would blow the fuse in every table. So we had to buy more cables and put them on top. Anyway, but that's not the reason that we're here. Things like that don't matter right now. That's the good news. But they will again in the future. We'll have that problem again. I just missed the beer. I think that's what I'm missing.
Beer and pizza.
I'd say you don't even have like 50 people trying to install stuff at the same time as well, because it's all just there.
Oh, I know. Yes. Well, thank you very much to both of you, to Jessica and Pete for joining us. Hopefully you'll stay to the end. I think we've got a bit of time at the end. We might have another quick chat, but we're going to move on in the interests of fairness to our different program languages and frameworks. We're going to talk a little bit more about Java right now, and I think we're going to bring Rory in as well. Sorry, I've taken Emily out there. Poor Emily. But yeah, we've got Rory. He's which way? I'm pointing the wrong way. He's over there somewhere. Yes. So Rory, thank you very much for being on the Cloud Skills Show with us this week. Do you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell everyone where you're joining us from?
Hi everyone, I'm joining you from sunny South Africa in the Southern Hemisphere, and I'm a cloud advocate with Microsoft. I'm more than just a Java developer because I can do all of the other languages, but my focus is to really empower developers to use Microsoft's platform for your Java workloads. And I'm here today to speak on an incredibly popular topic, code spaces, or AKA Visual Studio Online. And it's a development environment which in this COVID climate is very relevant because it allows you to really develop in any language on any platform in the cloud on your PC, self-hosted, and using Docker with Windows subsystem for Linux as the empowering container processor. Wow.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I was on mute. I'm so sorry.
I've got an incredible demo to show you. And usually when I finish with this demo, it's so breathtaking that people actually come to me and after the demo they go, "Why did you have to show me that? Why did you have to make it so apparent that you can work on your laptop in the cloud and just interchange between the two?" So I'd like to show you a demo today on all the different options that we can show. And Adam has threatened me that it has to be 20 minutes long. So we'll see how we can do that. And at the end of the demo, we're going to deploy whatever we create to the Azure cloud. And we're going to test it. And you're going to see how within 20 minutes you can change your entire development and mindset.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So great. So I will just, and I'm just going to start by saying, in the interest of balance, we talked about Python documentation. We talked about .NET documentation. We have Java documentation as well. We're not going to take you through a demo of that because hopefully you got it from the first two, that we've got some great docs. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about code spaces, Rory. So I'll let you get on with your demo now, and yes, I will hold you to that 20 minutes as well.
Great. Okay, so you see my screen, you can hear me, it's the little dance we do, can you see me, can you hear me? And the first thing I want to show you is a GitHub repo that you can see there's multiple different projects in here. And one thing you'll notice here that there's a project for nearly every language and every framework that you can use to start your project. It's a template to start your code spaces repository. And you can see here, we've got Alpine Linux, Ansible, blockchain, Java functions that we're going to use later, .NET Core, Terraform, Bash, C++, Dapper, Hugo, Kubernetes, PowerShell, Python. If you ever invite me again, I'll do the Python Postgres demo. So we're actually going to just leverage off the Azure Functions one, and I'm going to create a project, and then we're going to trigger an entire build environment from that. So when you actually go in and take these projects as your template, you'll see here when I go into the Java 11 project, you're really given just two files. You're given a dev container folder, don't worry about that stuff, but in the dev container folder, we have a Docker file and dev container.json. So let's open this up and see exactly what they give us. And you can see it's heavily invested by Microsoft and maintained. So the first thing you want to do is look at a Docker file. So what Visual Studio Codespaces does is that you actually build and develop on a Docker environment. And that Docker environment is self-contained, it's got storage in the cloud, and it's secure. And you get all of these nice CPU and memory utilizations that you can use on your Docker container. You build your own development environment. And this one here, it's pretty simple. You just see there that it's extending off those core tools here. And the other ones are a little bit more extensive though. But you can open up ports, you can install toolings on here. You can do a lot and build your own custom environment. It's also nice for a team lead because they can build the environment and give it to their team members to make sure that they're compliant. And the second file that you want to look at is the dev container.json. So once you've got your Docker instance running, you want to build your Visual Studio instance, Visual Studio Code instance on top of it to actually do your development. So this is a kind of like your launch.json or your settings.json, and you've got your name of the project that you're going to do, your Docker file that you use, and we've already seen that the Docker file, the ports that you want to forward to. And this is a little bit of a change of mindset you're going to have to do, though, because you can access the ports inside the container, inside the cloud now, but you have to be explicit on the ports. So we're going to see when we do some debugging, we're going to debug in the cloud. You don't get access to your IP address. Because that would be insecure. You get access to a hash with your port. Then you've got your settings that you want to actually install. We're going to do Java Home, your integrated shell terminal, and then you've got your extensions. Now, the nifty thing is that the world has changed. We don't only have extensions, but we have something called remote extensions. And remote extensions allow you to actually run the extension in addition to run it locally on your PC, but in the cloud. Think of something like a web server running in the cloud, and it would return back information to you. And this is the same kind of concept there, where you'd return back information from that remote extension. Then you've got your post command, Java-version, and then you've got your remote user that we can actually run the container as though. So that's the project that I extended off here, and I built a little project here. You can access it on Rory P, so GitHub Rory P, and then I've got my dev container folder that we've used, and don't worry about that. And then I've got my source project, and I've just got a really basic Java function that I've created here. And then I've got my pom.xml. And the important thing is that I'm going to use this project now to build my environment. So I've got my little button, and we document how to actually create it. Now I'm going to click on that, and it's going to go into my Visual Studio Codespaces workspace, which I've already got 2 projects there. I've got a backup in case things go hairy. And then I've got I want to show you a self-hosted here. And it's going to go in here, and we're going to create an environment called the Functions UK environment from this little button. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to go there, and it's going to say, wow, okay, I see that you logged in. You've got these environments, and I'm going to call this one UK, just so we can separate it. The Git repo, it already knows the Git repo, but you can use any Git repo and create it. The instance types here, you get standard Linux, basic Linux, and premium Linux. Now I'm a power-hungry person. I'm going to do premium Linux, and these are pretty cheap actually. If you do the standard Linux there, I think it comes to like $3, and you do a little bit of development, it comes to like $3 a month. So we've really kind of passed it at pretty cheap to be able to start. And this actually ties into my Visual Studio Professional account. So a lot of times, if you have an MSD and a Visual Studio account, you can just use this and leverage off that. So we're going to use premium Linux. We also have Windows containers, which we're not going to demo today, but if you want to run Windows containers, we're going to go premium. And then I'm also going to do it, I only want to suspend after 2 hours. And then I'm going to go create. And what you'll see here, it's going to bring up an instance. It's going to start building. The first thing it's going to do is going to build my Docker kind of container. It's going to fetch all my layers and build my development instance to be able to put my Visual Studio code on that Docker instance. And it's downloading the different layers, and it's going to run the container and bring up my instance, and then slowly but surely build those extensions. Now, the nifty thing is that these Docker instances here, these aren't really running on a VM in our Docker registry, and it's exactly, and you get full access to these instances to be able to modify the ports, the security, the base installs for that. And once this is started here, I'll show you the one that, okay, that's pretty quick. The one that I already have, just for timeless, and I'll go connect to the one I already have. We'll wait for that to start up there. I always like to actually show you that my demo that I'm doing is the actual demo that you're seeing. So this is the one that I actually started. And there we go. And you can see there, this is the one that we just created, and it started. So that took about 30 seconds. And depending on also your location and how many CPUs you did, remember if we did the CPUs there of 8 instances, it takes roughly about a minute to actually start. So that's our little instance there that we create. I'm just going to close that one over there. I want to work off one of those instances here. So this is our project that we created. We've got the dev container.json. We've got the source folder and our POM project files here. And it looks and feels exactly like your normal development environment. So we want to see how you can debug and how you can work off that. So I've got my source folder, and I've got my main file here. And I've got functions.json, the Java, wrong language, Rory. Java is not JavaScript. And then I've got a little function here, a serverless function that just says, please pass a name, and then we're going to just print out the name. So if I execute this right now, and I can just go execute that, and it'll execute, and it'll take this function and execute it locally on my Docker instance. You'll see here if everything works fine, because the little demos says that it might not. Okay, so let's just go there, run that, execute my Java function. And then it's going to run Maven clean package. Download, well, it's so much power and so close to the intent. You can see how fast it's actually downloading all those Maven instances. And the first time, so this is really the first time we've ever built Maven. So it's going to download Maven to run Maven, if you know Java development, then build successfully, and it's going to start my little simulator with my Java functions. Then it's got my little function running there. And then it's going to say, okay, cool, you want to access that? I want to go command click and access my local host. And it's going to say, please pass in a name. And it's going to connect me to the forwarded port. Now, this is a bit of a mind change, if you remember, because the forwarded port, let's just make sure we're not stopping debugging. The forwarded port there, and let me make that bigger, Control+, please pass the name to the query string and the request body. It's got a hash there because it's not going to give you access to the underlying API. And I can go, let's go name equals to, let's do Adam. Adam's name. And then it should say, hello, Adam. Now, that's great, and I'm running it on this instance here, but I want to debug. So I want to pop in a debug point. And no, Rory, you can't debug in the cloud. That's insane. That's madness. But I've got my debug port there. Now I'm going to restart that instance with name equals to Adam. And you'll see here, it doesn't come back because what's actually happened, it's actually caught the breakpoint in our instance. We're debugging in the cloud. And we can go in there and we can go inspect name and query, and we can mouse over, and you've got a full development environment, and you can check your stack trace around that, and we can run it again, and then Adam will see his name again, though. And this is the fundamental concept that we're trying to show developers, is that you have full access to your code, and you have your development environment code. You can even create a bash script here, and if I go here and I go host name, let's go host name. It's the code spaces little name that we have here. And so that's your cloud instance. But what happens if I want to close my laptop and go somewhere else and work from home? Now I've got my instance here, and I want to run this instance now locally. How do I do that? How do you swap between the two? So I've got my Visual Studio Code instance running on my PC. And as an advocate, we always use the Insider Edition. You can see I've started it up. I don't have anything there. And I've got my GitHub repo that I've done there. But I want to not open the GitHub repo. I want to open the code space that I've got online. Now, remember, if you call that Functions Online UK, I want to right-click that. And I just want to close that just to make sure it doesn't act a little bit weird. And then I want to go connect. Now I'm going to connect. Not stick with me here. I want to connect to my instance of my Docker instance over there, but I'm going to run it locally. And then all of your remote extensions now are running with Java extensions. The Docker instance is running there. And all I'm doing is making my PC a dumb terminal to send information to and from it. And I can prove that to you because I can do a hostname instance there. So let's go there, and we're going to go terminal, new terminal. And now I can go host name, and I should see that little code space is there. I'm here now, but I'm running locally on my PC, and I can debug locally on my PC also if I go in here. And now the debugging will act a little bit different because I'm debugging locally on my PC, but I'm running in the cloud. So I can put the debug point there, and I can execute that, attach to Java functions. But it will start localhost because now it's sending information to the Docker instance, running over there, and then coming back to my PC. And I can use all of these debugging tools to actually debug locally on my PC. You'll see there that the URL is localhost. I can command click through that. And let's just swap it over. It's opened to my other screen. This is what happens when you're not a Mac user. It's always a fight, I find, starting to learn Mac. Come on, Mac. Come on, Mac. And we want to go there. We'll swap it over. Swap it over. And why aren't you swapping over? Exit full screen. I think that's why I wanted to go full screen. And we want to swap over there. Okay, let's minimize that. I think the full screenness is confusing it. There we go. Hello, Adam. There we go. And now it's running on localhost, and I can debug because it's stopping there, and it's got the debug port. Now this is debugging on my local PC, but running on the actual server. And I can go back into my little instance. Where were we? There. Let's go into our instance there. Connecting to forward port. No, I'm just going to close all of these here. Close, close, close. And now we can go name equals to Adam. Adam, no, don't kill his name. And then you can see it's actually broken on the breakpoint there, and I can go through it. Now, this is great, but Rory, sometimes I want to run locally with the connection to the remote workspace. But what happens if I actually want to run on my workspace? I've got bandwidth issues, and in South Africa we always have bandwidth issues, and I want to run it locally. So the exact same project, I'm just going to disconnect here. I've got the exact same project that we saw there, and I'm going to close that. And to prove to you, I'm going to go File, I'm going to go Close Remote Connection, File, close Windows, so close absolutely everything. Now I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go to my little function VS Online, and then I'm going to click through, and the first thing that you're going to see when I click through is going to say starting the dev container locally. And I've got my projects here, and I can actually show you that I've run it locally because I can go into my Portainer instance. So I can go Portainer, and Portainer is a nice little analysis tool for your containers. So localhost, and I'm going to do my Portainer. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Come on, plus, make it bigger. And then I've got my Docker instance, which I'm running locally, and I've got my containers. And right now, I've got Portainer instance, and then I've got Suspicious Kettler that is running. And that's my container instance that I'm running locally. And I can go into Suspicious Kettler, and you'll see here that the image is exactly the image that we created for the Docker instance. Where's my image there? I want to go find my image container. So let's go into actual images here. I'm going to make that maximize, and let's go. Okay, let's go into images, applications, stacks, container list, and the next one must be images. So then our images that we've got there, let me make it a little bit smaller. Way too small. Okay, containers, and then we've got suspicious. There we go. That's where it was. There's my image there, and I've got my image. You can see there, I've got my files there, and it's exactly what we created. Zulu Enterprise, the Run app, Maven settings, all of that locally, and I can even bash into my local image and into my containers of my instance running on my PC, and it gets a little bit kind of like Inception, because you've got containers running and containers running on either on the cloud or your instances. And the last thing I want to show you is how to do all of this for free. Yeah, I know, but Rory, your children need to eat, but I'm going to show you a way, still got a little bit of time on how to actually do all of this for free. So I'm going to close all of that. Now I've got my instance running here, but I've also got, if you look at my container that I've set up on code spaces, I've got something called a self-hosted environment. Now you can't connect to it yet from here, self-hosted environment, but this is running on my Macintosh laptop, the same one that is giving me Windows issues. And this is running inside the code spaces environment. So I'm going to show you how to connect to that. Let's go show all windows. Adam, can you hear me?
I can. I'm here.
Yeah, let's go show windows, and let's go no available windows. Wow, this does not like that that run. Let's go new window. There we go. I think it's because I'm running everything in the background, listening to you and everything like that. Okay, so
you need to fix up your search engine as well. I think that's the problem.
Oh no, I'm a Java developer on Mac who uses Zoom occasionally, and then I've got my self-hosted instance here, and you'll see here if I start it out and I go connect, I can connect to my instance here, but this is running on Mac, and now if I wanted people to simulate on Mac, I can give them an unlimited version. Obviously, it's going to take CPU power on my Mac, But my terminal now and my instance that I can create here is Mac. And I can go in here and I'll show you, I'll prove to that. And while this is running here, I'm going to show you also that function that we created earlier that we can deploy. So I'm going to go online again, and I'm going to just connect to my instance, and I'm going to push that function, that one over there. I'm going to go connect. And it's as simple as, I'll show you how simple it is to actually deploy that. And I've already created an environment that we can use beforehand. So this is just starting up my Azure Functions. And this is the Function UK environment that we actually started. And you'll see there that it will eventually come through a nice little Azure button. I've got my instances here, so my developer account. And I've created a Function UK beforehand, so we don't have to delay. And then I've got the workable one there also. And I just right-click on that, and I go deploy my Function app that I created, this app there. And it will say, do you want to deploy? Yes, I want to deploy. And it will zip it up and send it through. So running the deploy task. This takes about 2 to 3 minutes. But any which way, while this is happening, I've already got an instance that is running there, and I can go and find that instance there. So I can go browse that website, and it'll browse the website and show me the Function app that we created. And you can test also directly off our portal and deploy directly off Visual Studio Code. So if you remember the self-hosted here, and I wanted to come back there. And if I go host name, let me just make that a little bit bigger. I go host name. This should be a Mac because I'm running self-hosted. I go host name, and it's Rory's MacBook Pro laptop running there. So I can now give people a slice of my laptop running anywhere in the world to develop on for free, self-hosted instances, and set up the entire environment based on my laptop. The last little bit that we've got, so that's my Azure Functions there. Your Function app is up and running, and I can go then / HTTP example name equals to not Rory, Adam. And that's your deployed application that you have there. I've shown you 4 ways to develop. I've shown you how to run it on code spaces online. I've showed you how to connect to their code spaces locally and run it remotely via remote extensions. I've shown you how to actually run that locally on your PC and proven that with the Docker container. And then finally, I've shown you also how to run this on self-hosted instances deployed to Azure. The world will never be the same again. You have so many options. This is $3 a month, and the world is your oyster now. And we realized this also because in Middle East and Africa, we ran a remote development hackathon. And this was so relevant because sometimes people don't have these fancy MacBook Pro laptops. They have an old school phone, and I've done development actually on my phone. I spin up my phone, spin up the code spaces, and I get 8 CPUs, 16 gigs of RAM, and I can do anything at any given time. And it's not the same anymore. And that's the demo I wanted to show to you. To get started, Adam's probably shared some links in my Google Chrome window, which I don't know where it's gone.
Yeah, it's there somewhere. But yes, we had lots of links, and you can rewind if you want to watch those again. But what we're going to do is we're going to put them all online shortly. It will be on later today via the link that's shown on screen, aka.ms/cs-show2. So look out for those. So Rory, that was absolutely amazing. I mean, we are completely out of time, so I don't even have the opportunity to ask you any challenging questions. But don't worry, we'll find a time again to zoom in. Thank you very much, everyone. I would just like to say a final thank you to all of our guests today. So first of all, to the wonderful Emily Clarke.
Thank you very much.
And the wonderful Jessica White. Let's see if I can change the names quick enough. There we go. And we have Pete.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, there you are. And finally, of course, where is he? Rory as well. So a huge thank you for joining. My name is Adam Jackson. I hope that you will continue to follow the show. We'll be back next week with our AI special, which is going to be presented by Amy Boyd, one of our AI cloud advocates. I am really looking forward to that. But in the meantime, we will put the links from today on this page. Thank you very much for joining, and we will see you again. So thanks for joining. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks.
Azure, Kubernetes, Power BI, Xamarin. How does the developer, IT admin, analyst, or solution architect keep up with all the latest technologies? Microsoft Learn can keep you one step ahead. First off, Microsoft Learn offers free, interactive, hands-on training and is always available at no cost to you. With more than 1,000+ courses and growing, find a wide variety of topics, including Azure, artificial intelligence, business applications, modern workplace, and Windows development. These modules offer a concise, interactive, and friendly way to pick up new skills as you venture into new career paths or start preparing for Microsoft certifications. You can complete most of them in 15 to 60 minutes. All have been translated into a variety of common languages. Want to fill in the big picture? Learning Paths guide you through a series of logically connected modules. You can work along the path, gaining experience points and badges as you go. Make your own journey by creating and sharing a custom collection of modules for you and your team. And use bookmarks to save your favorites to come back to later. A personalized homepage will always keep you up to date. Learning is hands-on. The Sandbox environment uses real Azure. You are working with real resources in exactly the same manner as you would with your own subscription. When possible, you can choose your preferred platform to learn on. Want more personal instructor-led training? Microsoft Learn can connect you with a variety of qualified learning partners to take your technical skills to the next level. Want to browse through Microsoft Learn to see what it offers? Head to Microsoft.com/learn and check out your opportunities. We've created a platform to help you learn at the pace of change.
Thank you.